Hey there, Tide fans. Welcome to Tide Talk, actually the holiday edition. I'm your host, Sean Taylor. Got my two co-hosts with me, Maurice, Jimmy. We're back. We're happy to be back doing a Sugar Bowl pre-Sugar Bowl show. Going to talk about a lot of things that I guess we're really not used to talking about since we're not in the playoffs, but that's okay. Maurice, how was Christmas?
It was colder than I expected. I was actually up in your neck of the woods for a couple of days, and it's the reason for the season. So that was the most important part, and got to spend it with some family, and everything's good. And now I'm back in paradise.
That's right, Jimmy. Good holidays for you. Good Christmas.
Yeah, man. And I'm like y'all, glad to be back. It is a little different. A little disappointing to talk about what we're going to talk about today. Again, not talking about being in the playoffs. It's never fun, especially when you're used to being in that playoff every year. But I want to do something first, real quick. Man, we the college football world lost a great guy a couple of weeks ago, Coach Mike Leach. He invented the air raid.
That's right.
Man, he's a Hall of Famer in my book, and I just want to just give a little shout out to that family and Mississippi State family. Like I say, we lost a good one. Lost Coach Mike.
Amen.
Yeah, I was actually watching one of the specials, and just to listen to that guy, I mean,
I know. Man. I love his pregame and his postgame.
Yeah, funny dude.
I mean, he was a great character, great personality that we're gonna miss. So.
Yeah, funny dude. I remember one of the things I read was about Lincoln Riley. He brought Lincoln Riley in because he was actually playing for him, and he said, "Hey man," he said, "you're not going to play." He goes, "Let me just go ahead and tell you that." He goes, "But I want you to start coaching." And then they kind of let you know that it was Lincoln Riley that he was talking about. So, man, look what he's been doing. But yeah, super guy. Thanks for bringing that up, Jimmy. He definitely will be missed. But let's get on with the show.
Really, somebody would have had that conversation with me. That would have been nice.
Yeah.
I got half that conversation. But anyway,
right,
exactly.
It is different for us. I think this is the second time since the playoffs has been in effect since 14, 15 that we're not in the conversation. Maybe that's good for us. Maurice, we've talked all year just about attitude and got maybe guys feeling privileged, if you will, with the NIL and the rankings that they have coming in and that sort of thing. So maybe this is good for us. Maybe this is an opportunity for us to reflect as a team and maybe rebound and see what happens. That remains to be seen. A lot of speculation about coaching changes and et cetera, which we'll talk a little bit about. But Maurice, do you agree? This may be good for us at this point in the Alabama program?
I think so. I think it makes for an interesting winter workout that should start about January the 4th. And those are intense sessions for any winning program. But whenever you throw on a disappointing season prior, where there are expectations, and there should be the ultimate expectations when you have repeatedly the number one recruiting class, and if not the top, then top three, then it should be expected. And when you don't even come close, and when I say come close, you're not in the playoff picture. You didn't even win the West, your own division. It's going to be intense, and it should be to the fact that if the players really want to be there, then they should want it intense. They should want to be pushed, and they should push each other. So we'll see. And we always hear things that kind of slip out from the program as far as what the attitude's like with some of the players, and you're going into spring. So we'll hope. I think it'll be pretty intense January, February, and March. For these guys.
You bring up wanting to be there. Jimmy, we've seen a lot of guys enter the transfer portal. A lot of guys leave. Is that a good thing? Do we want those if they're looking to leave? Do we want them there? We've said before, hey, if you don't want to be here, bye. I think, hearing some of the conversations from within and that sort of thing, that was kind of the approach. Hey, look, if you don't want to be here,
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think. Again, well, let me say this: I don't necessarily believe in how portal works these days as far as a transfer, but it is definitely a good thing. Again, if they're wanting to leave now, then there's a reason.
right?
And yes, I think they need to be gone. And like we've said, yeah, bye. We don't need you. Because one, they either didn't want to work hard enough to earn more playing time. They were a cancer. They're something, and not every case is that way.
Right.
But for the most part, it's that way. But I was going to say this. After what happened last year, as close as we were, within 2 or 3 minutes of winning another national championship, with everybody returning, this past season or the season we're about to end, I mean, if there was a reason to be excited and motivated to come back and have a good run, it would have been this year. Well, obviously we didn't see that. We've been questioning this team all year for some reason.
Both the coaches and players.
Yeah, coaching and players. And I think, the answer as far as what we're looking for going into next year, I think was answered when Young and Anderson decided to play. That still says a little bit about the culture that we have. The fact that those two guys are both probably top 5, top 10 picks, and they're like, no, man, we're doing this one more time with my teammates. What kind of leader would I be if I'm not playing this game? Says all it needs to be. That's all that needs to be said about, I think, the attitude of this team. Now, again, is it going to translate onto the field? Because every year, this whole year, post game, everybody's always said the right things, Saban included, but then we never saw it translate to the field. So I'm going to be curious how the attitude we have is going to translate not only into this game, but how that's going to springboard us into the spring and then, of course, summer and fall of next year.
Yeah, listen, we talk about competition all the time. We've said before, I know I have, competition breeds excellence. And for these guys to leave, and listen, one of them is a kid that I had, Javion Cohen, started 2 years, was a starter. But obviously you saw this year some flip-flopping with him and Booker, who is expected to be the starting left guard in the bowl game. But for whatever reason, as you said, didn't want to work hard enough to earn more playing time. Something was going on externally that kept them from seeing the field more, whatever the case might be. I'm in agreement. I don't necessarily, man, I have my opinion about the portal, but I've always said, even in my job as the principal at my school, I want people that want to be there. Because people that want to be there will perform their best regardless. And I think you're going to see some guys get an opportunity now that some of these guys have left. You're going to see some guys really try to show out for this game, but also to, as you mentioned, Jimmy, to springboard into next year. Saban always talks about creating value. And I think we're going to get an opportunity to see some guys create value for themselves, and it starts in this bowl game. And so, a lot of things happening, a lot of shuffling around, a lot of guys leaving. 12, I believe, is who entered the portal. But I'm excited about the recruiting class that we had. We'll talk a little bit about that. I'm excited about this bowl game, first time we've ever played Kansas State in the history of the program. I think it's going to be exciting. But Maurice, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and talk about that a little bit. But hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Beam is delivering gig speed internet to 100% of our network. But should you get a gig? Well, if you want to download an album in a blink, video conference in 4K, make virtual reality more real, power all of your home smart devices at the same time, and still have bandwidth to stream everything without buffering, then yeah, you gotta get a gig. So call, click, or visit and get it. Because when you gotta get a gig, you gotta go with Beam. Bringing East Alabama more.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. Maurice, we were just talking right there at the break about the transfer portal, guys leaving, guys wanting to be there. We've talked about that all year. We've talked about specific position groups. We had several O linemen leave. We had several receivers leave. That's going to create some opportunity for some of these younger guys. Who are you specifically looking for, if anybody, Maurice, in this game coming up with Kansas State to really kind of step up and show out?
Well, first thing is, I know everybody's probably thinking, did I get my own NIL or endorsement with Coca-Cola?
I was wondering.
It's Coke Zero, and me and Nick are kind of same team but competing against each other. I'll see how many likes I get with this. Same time, Auburn has a new, a lot of teams do the Ford truck, but Auburn is going with the Ford Escort in honor of Hugh Freeze because he seems to know escorts pretty good. So I'll leave that alone.
Bada bing.
Bada bing. So what I'm looking for is still, and I've said it from the beginning of the season, and I think with the transfers that have happened, I want to see at least 2 receivers be ball hawks, meaning balls in the air, balls mine, get out of the way, I've got it, and I'm going to do something with it. That's what I'm looking for. Have not seen that this year. We've said we've been spoiled in years past because there was just so much talent and guys that wanted the ball. I haven't seen anybody that really wants it that splits out, or even, hate to say it, even as a tight end, inconsistent. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I will say this, and I know you always in the show kind of with it, but you touched on it. This is the first time I can recall with any team that is not in contention or in the playoffs where all the seniors or all the third-year players say, nope, I'm coming back. Because usually, as a former gambler, I would always look for the team that didn't really want to be there. They were disappointed. I'm not saying this as a homer. I'm just saying this as players want to be there when they could opt out. So it's worth a look as far as the point spread. Usually it would be no, but take the other team because they want to be there. But go ahead. But that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for wide receivers to step up finally.
Yeah, I think we've said that the whole year. We were all a little disappointed in the production or the attitude, maybe. Again, I'm going to use that word from the wide receiver standpoint. We just didn't have the guy that, again, being spoiled, Jameson Williams, Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, Jalen Waddle, you can go, Julio Jones, you can go on and on.
Jerry Judy.
Judy, Henry Ruggs. We just haven't had that guy, that seemed to want the ball every time and have the attitude, like you said, there's the ball, I'm going to get it, and you're not going to stop me type thing. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of these guys, the new guys, Kobe Prentice, the Lawson kid. I'm really looking forward to seeing these guys say, hey, you know what, here's my chance to solidify the lead for a spot next year and see what they do. We've talked about it before. Listen, A.J. McCarron, Greg McElroy, they weren't the greatest quarterbacks, but they had so much talent around them. The only thing they needed to do was get it to them. Well, now we got a really good quarterback in Bryce Young, but we don't see the same production. And we, to be honest, we're not playing for a playoff. We don't see the same contention with respect to the national championship. So it's going to be interesting to see these guys that are getting a chance if they can handle that. I think that's the key.
Yeah. Well, regarding the wideouts, yes, I think we started seeing kind of glimpses of it late in the season, and I think that's why we saw some of the ones that transferred already because they saw that writing. And so, yes, I think I hope we're pleasantly surprised this game, but I think again springboarding into the next year, I think we'll see a huge difference in that particular position group.
Let me ask y'all one question. I know Jimmy, you're kind of connected as far as injuries go. So were the players that we finally got to see Lawson never really got to see Harrell that much. Was it all due to injuries to where they could never get well enough to get in the rotation until that late in the season?
Yes, basically 99% of the reason why they wasn't on the field day one was because they were not healthy. Again, Saban's been, he pretty much kind of keeps that
Close to the vest.
on as far as injuries are concerned and where people are with their injuries and their rehabs and whatnot. Yes, those two that you mentioned, they didn't see the field because they never really truly were healthy till late in the season. And again, while they didn't touch the ball more late in the season, because I think we can look at offensive coordinator for that, but yeah, so that's why I think they'll be healthy now. Whether they're healthy for the bowl game, because honestly, I haven't seen anything. I mean, as far as I know, everybody's healthy. So we should have a full gamut as far as what we have there is going to be dressing out. Nobody's nursing you anything. So it'll be interesting to see if those two guys in particular, do see the field a little bit more and are put into that scheme some. But Sean, you mentioned recruiting class and the guys that we got returning in that position group and what we got assigned early. Again, the future is bright, which is all it always is. But that position group is really there's talent there, and so we'll see.
Maurice, what do you think? The rumors with Bill O'Brien going to the Patriots, and he's, what do you think that's going to do to the offense? Or do you think it'll have an impact at all?
Well, I mean, yeah, everything I've been reading for the past month, that's why his name was taken out of the Georgia Tech job, is because he was honest with them and said he had a desire to get back to the NFL, and everything is being linked to the Patriots, and they've got their problems as well. So, as far as us, I tried to get a rumor started with Garrett Riley, Lincoln Riley's younger brother, who's the offense coordinator at TCU, early 30s, I think he is, 33, 34 years old. You just know that this is going to be one of those that in a few years is going to be a head coach. I think that would be dramatically improved, but also had someone else bring up a good point that the next coach will be like an RPO subject matter expert, because I think that's what Saban really enjoyed under Kiffin and Sarkisian, is that RPO, especially with Lane Kiffin. So we'll see, but I think it's, numbers lie, or numbers can mean anything, and our offense is rated pretty highly. And we've had this discussion before. But, it's a little bit of both. Is it the players? Is it the schemes? In this case, I think it's mostly the schemes. And some, we've talked about some of the players as far as not stepping up. But
here's my take.
Go ahead.
If O'Brien is looking to be leading, if he's looking to go to the NFL, in my opinion, we ought to see a ton of production. There's nothing holding him back. I mean, I would think that he would want a absolute blowout of a game from an offensive perspective, just to, hey, I'm out of here type thing.
Well, let me just say this. If we see that,
we're going to be mad.
I'm going to be extremely upset.
Exactly.
And mad.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason for him to hold anything in the bag for the entire season.
Yeah. Well, I get that. I get that.
It's funny, Mo, because you're right. We actually, believe it or not, averaged more points per game this year than we did last year. Most people don't know that. The two games we lost technically wasn't because of the offense. It was because of the defense.
Right.
But I think we've been on the offensive coordinator most all year long, more so than we have the defensive coordinator. He is gone. I mean, he's sticking around for this bowl game. If he comes back, then something has happened, because he is gone. Now, who the next guy's going to be, I have no idea. But O'Brien will be gone.
Yeah. All right, let's take another break. We'll come back and talk a little bit more about the defensive side, but we got to talk about the game with Kansas State. I know that we're favored, but it's still going to be a good football game. Of course, Saban's talking this up to be a very, very challenging team, et cetera. But let's take a quick break. Hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
What is community? Is it a neighborhood? The businesses and homes inside it? Maybe community isn't just a place. Maybe it's a state of mind that when we care together, cheer together, we're closer to what really counts. At Beam, we're finding new ways to bring us all closer. And you'll find us right out there with you, because community is always on our mind. Beam, bringing East Alabama more.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. So, yeah, Maurice, Jimmy, I think I'll be a little upset too if we go out there and just put 50 on the board and we're going to say, well, why haven't we been doing that all year? In his defense, it is a little different. It is the last game probably for him. It is not, a lot of times we talked about we were playing not to lose instead of playing to win. There's no reason for that in this bowl game. So it is a little different mindset from an offensive coordinator's perspective. But let's talk about the defense. As you mentioned, the two games that we lost really wasn't, especially the Tennessee game. I mean, it really wasn't. We put 49 points on the board. It really wasn't an offensive issue. Of course, there was no offense in the first half against Tennessee. That's subjective and questionable. But Maurice, this defense, I mean, listen, this was supposed to be one of the best defenses that we've had in a long time. And we constantly question whether that be players or schemes. And I know a lot of times we question schemes. We questioned what in the world was going on.
Well, let's rewind for 2 years. Somebody on this show mentioned something about Pete Golding.
Who's he talking about?
Schemes.
I don't
know who it was, but I heard he's a pretty good looking guy.
Thanks, Mo.
You're welcome. Me. So it's to me 100% schemes. I think he's staying, from what I hear. He's a heck of a recruiter, but some of the schemes that I've seen have been absolutely atrocious. I have not. I haven't questioned the players. I think a lot of it has to do with position coaches included, and one of them is another Phoenix City person or spent some time in Phoenix City. Kelly, safeties coach. He's now at Colorado as their DC. So I thought our safety play was extremely weak and inconsistent. I know the players are solid, these guys have the stature, the physical,
right,
the physique and the speed and the agility to play in the NFL. So I don't think it's them. I 100% think it was all coaching on that side of the ball. Whenever you can, and any decent coordinator can put us in a position to where Will Anderson now has to go out and cover a running back. And some people can say, well, he's talented enough. That's not the point. The point is now you've opened up one side of the field to where Will Anderson's not on, and I can run it or do something over there because he is I got to know where he is 24/7 type of player.
Right.
So now I know he's split way out here. I got this side of the field open, and I would never want him, out like that. And there's just been other things. So the defensive side of the ball, players, I think were there. Not overly have been crazy about To'oTo'o, but I think he's okay. He's by no means Reuben Foster.
Just look. I'll tell you this, Mo. Just look at how many of those defenders, the defensive players, will have that will go drafted, that will get drafted. Now they're not necessarily first round picks in the draft, but we have a half a dozen guys.
We're losing at least 6.
We have a half a dozen guys on the defense side of the ball that get drafted, somewhere between the first round and the 4th or 5th round. So that tells you the talent's there. So that guy, you're right. I think he is coming back for whatever reason, other than the only thing I read was that he's got one more year on his contract. Saban's, I guess, technically never had to fire anybody because they've always just left. It's beyond me why he's not gone, but he will come back. I'll be okay because he is a great recruiter. Give him a position to coach and then bring somebody else in to be the DC. Scheme wise, it's going to be curious. Like I said, we're talking about this game coming up. You hear everything about Kansas State and TCU. They beat TCU.
Big 12 champions.
They're the lunch pail, hard hat, old school, punch you in the mouth, do all the things right, don't hurt themselves. So it's going to be curious to see. I'm curious to see again how we line up and how we prepare for this.
But Maurice, Jimmy, let me ask you this question. The concerning part for me is I'm not sure, and I could be wrong. I'm not sure that our defense is made for the hard hat, punch you in the mouth. I mean, let's take To'o is our inside linebacker, and he's what, 210, 220 pounds at the most. I mean, he's not Reuben Foster. He's not C.J. Mosley. It's almost like we're built to cover from sideline to sideline and run people down, which I think is some of the reason that people had some success running the football between the tackles is because they pushed us around a little bit. Now, up front, we've got a lot of size, DJ Dale Jr. and Byron Young, but I don't know that we're built for the punch you in the mouth, but in the grit, in the trenches type of defense. Do you disagree with that?
I'll disagree with it because in this game, there's no question as far as in my mind. You rate these players, it's not even close. Kansas State's recruiting compared to our recruiting last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, there should be no way that they could keep up with us. Now, I'm not knocking K-State. I like them. I think they got a little running back, kind of like Darren Sproles, about 5'6", little bowling ball. They are gritty. They'll throw it up for grabs. I've always been, how I've always said, I don't like the way our techniques and coverages. They're going to be stretched. They're going to test them, especially the safeties. So it's going to be interesting. Now, I do like our defensive front, that the players that you just mentioned. I think they're good enough to stop it. It's just the positions that the defensive calls put us in to whether or not they can stop it. That's another thing.
That's
So-
right. Yeah, because their speed doesn't compare to ours.
Right.
I mean, there's
Not supposed to anyway.
Yeah. And if we put the guys in the right spots, we will have success. So
Sugar Bowl matchup, Kansas State, Big 12 champions, first time ever these two programs have played, number 5 against number 9, Alabama being number 5, Kansas State being number 9. Let's get some predictions, Maurice. What's the spread?
The line that I just checked was us -7.
Ooh,
I'll take that
figured
all
it'd be a little
day.
more than that.
I'm sorry.
I figured it'd be a little more than that.
I thought so too, unless y'all heard differently. But I thought that's what I just saw, or maybe 8. But I'm gonna either way. Like I mentioned earlier, with Bryce and Will Anderson coming back saying no, we're gonna finish this, and it's more than the players that. Oh well, shoot! I guess we got to go to this game since we didn't get into the playoffs and not really going to practice hard and all that. I haven't heard anything as far as practices go, but I would imagine with those players coming back and everybody else that it's going to be, we're not going out down. Like, we're going to show them that we belong. So I can see us, laying it to them, and I'm thinking 42-17, something like that.
Okay, Jimmy?
Yeah, the last time we were in this position, we played a very similar Michigan State team and just embarrassed them.
Yeah.
If you remember, that was the Derrick Henry stiff arm, Michigan State defensive end guy, just threw him for a flip, and we pretty much handled business that year. I hope we see that this year. I can't, with all confidence, say that we are going to see that. I do believe we will handle them. I think it's going to be one of those kind of close games initially. We should end up, beating them probably by 2 or 3 scores before it's all said and done. And that'll be what I'll say. I don't know about a score. I think it could be like a 40 to 14, 40 to 17, something like that kind of score.
Well, I'm going to go with 45-20 tied. I think it'll be close early, just because us trying to figure out some new personnel in there and that sort of thing. But I think we'll pull away 45-20. Will be interesting to see. We'll be doing this again next week post game. Let me take just a second, give a shout out to my mother. It's her birthday today. Greatest
Happy
mother
birthday.
in the world. She'll be 75 today, if I'm not mistaken. So happy birthday, Mom. And Tide fans, we'll be doing this again next week on Channel 207, hopefully talking about a Sugar Bowl victory over Kansas State. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.